Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Prince Hall Think Tank, a monthly conversation amongst Prince Hall Freemasons where we discuss topics relative to craft masonry. My name is Brother Antonio Caffey, and I'm a very proud past master of St. Mark's Lodge number 7, located in Columbus, Ohio, where currently Worshipful Brother Vance Williams serves as Worshipful Master. My lodge was issued a charter in 1852 by the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio, where currently the Honorable Chester C. Christie serves as Most Worshipful Grand Master. Before I let the other brothers introduce themselves tonight, I'd like to state that the views and opinions that are expressed by us this evening in no way reflect the views and opinions of the Grand Lodges, or other houses that we may belong to. Also, if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to use our chat option on our YouTube page. And if you haven't already done so, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to our page so that you can stay up to date with all of our happenings. At this time, as we always do, I'd like the other brothers to introduce themselves, and we'll have our special guest introduce himself last. We'll start out with Brother Morgan.
Good evening, everybody. We're back. I think this is our second episode we've done under our stay in place orders, but I'm happy to be here on the Prince Hall Think Tank. I did cut my hair for those who was on the last episode, but I'm so happy to be here and learn a little bit about Royal and Select Masonry. I am James Morgan III. I'm a past master of Corinthian Lodge 18, and I serve as Grand Historian of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of DC, where the Honorable Quincy Gant is our Grand Master. And I'm really looking forward to this episode because, for those who do not know, I am actually not yet a member of Royal and Select Masters. I actually happen to have a petition right here, but as y'all can see, it's blank. So I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about why I should join this body of Freemasonry. And I'm looking forward to seeing our guest. Welcome, Brother Leggett. And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Jack.
All right, good evening, everyone. Brother Damian Jack, I bid you greetings. Proud past master of Paul Drayton Lodge number 7, where Brother Lonnie McBride serves as Worshipful Master. Bid you greetings from the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of North Carolina, where the Honorable Daniel L. D.T. Thompson serves as our 24th Most Worshipful Grand Master. Tonight, bid you greetings as illustrious companion, Damian Jack, a proud past thrice illustrious master of Hiram Abiff Council number 3, Newell, North Carolina, where Richard R. Peeler serves as our thrice illustrious master. We are a constituent council under the Prince Hall Grand Council of Royal and Select Masters jurisdiction of North Carolina, where the Honorable Alfred L. Mack serves as our Rite Grand Thrice Illustrious Master, and I have the honor of serving as the Grand Illustrious Lecturer. It is an honor and pleasure to be with you this evening. Definitely looking forward to this episode.
Thank you. Brother Gillarm.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brother Dave Gillarm, past master of Mount Pisgah Lodge number 53, located in Columbus, Georgia, where Christopher Gainey serves as our worshipful master. I also have the pleasure of serving as the worshipful grand historian for the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Georgia, where the Honorable Corey D. Shackelford Sr. serves as our 18th Most Worshipful Grand Master. Just like Brother Damian Jack, tonight I'm also an illustrious companion, Dave Gillarm, and I served as a past thrice illustrious master of T. William Council number 13 in Phoenix City, Alabama, where Antonio Dwayne Mack serves as thrice illustrious master. This council operates under the illustrious W.H. Mack Grand Council jurisdiction of Alabama, where the Honorable Victor B. Pettis serves as our grand thrice illustrious master. I'm definitely looking forward to getting to this show. I can tell you it was not easy putting together these presentations, but hopefully at the end of it, everybody will gain something from this show.
Thank you, good brother. And our special guest this evening, Brother Leggett. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody, and I appreciate the invite to actually sit in from illustrious companion Jack. He's a good man, and I'm glad to see I'm going to make some more new friends after this night is over. I am so excited just to hear what you guys got to bring to the table. I'm always searching myself. I don't think that you can never attain enough knowledge, and you can learn from everybody. But just for the crowd and the viewers that's listening, I am Stephen Shaw Leggett, the current Right Grand Thrice Illustrious Master for the jurisdiction of Virginia. I went into the seat March of 2019. May would have been my first full year. But as you know, with everything's going on, we had to cancel our session. I proudly serve under the Honorable Right Grand Master Richard Towns, who actually he would come out in September. I've been around a little bit, member of the York Rite bodies. Not too long ago, finished out the seat as the Grand High Priest. And then September, God's willing, I'll go in as the Grand Eminent Commander. My local lodge is Prospect number 121, where I serve as a past master. Jack, we got something in common because the name of my local council is Hiram Biff number 7. So we got another little connection there.
That's all right.
Exactly. But other than that, fellas, I'm just glad to be here and to listen, learn, provide input. And if you don't mind, I'll just tell you a little bit about Virginia right now, just so we can get that out of the way. Our council will be 22 years old come June 12th exactly. In the jurisdiction of Virginia, of course, we had the Royal Arch, and then we had Knights Templar, and then the Royal and Select came after the fact. So they're actually younger than our two other York Rite bodies. Hold on one second, my screen jumped off a little bit, but we should be good. If you guys can still hear me, just bear with me on that. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you and see you.
Okay, you can see me. All right. I can't see you for some reason right now, but if you just give me a second. Where are we? There we go. All right. I'm back. I can see you great guys now. With that said, within Virginia, we average around 280 to 300 illustrious companions. That gives a take on how we're doing. I got 7 councils that's under me. And just really my theme when I came is, and Jack has heard this before, is remember your commitment at the altar. It is what it is. I got a mighty few, but I got a good few that's actually putting in some hard work around, and they know who they are. But all we're doing on my time is really just cleaning up. When I say cleaning up, administratively from the foundation, make sure the financials is right, and get back to what we do great. And that's supposed to be about the business and helping people. But I just want to make sure that I just bring Virginia. This is kind of what I wanted to do on the local levels, is for Virginia to start having that olive branch out there on the jurisdictional levels, where we kind of get to know people and travel and do things like that. We do it on the Red House, but I kind of want to see it at least during my time on a Purple House. I done did the DMV visits and all of that good stuff, but just want to make sure that we're reaching out, because this is one of the most beautiful houses to be in. I mean, the education is there. If you want it, I mean, you can get it, and you can get it from just with this panel of great brothers that's on now. All you got to do is read and ask the right questions, and your puzzle will come together. But without no further ado, I just want to sit back now and enjoy this lesson that's about to be served up.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll definitely come back to you too after the 2 presentations, just to talk about, just the house and why brothers should be interested in furthering their knowledge and seeking more information. So stay tuned, everyone. So tonight, as the brothers have stated, this is a continuation of our York Rite series. Tonight, we're going to focus on Cryptic Masonry, the Royal and Select Masters. It has a wonderful history, as you'll soon see, and some people describe the lessons that are taught within this house of Freemasonry is very profound. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it, and we'll start out with Brother Jack's presentation. So Brother Jack, take it away.
All right. Can everybody see it?
Yep. Good.
All right. All right. So like Lester's companion Gillarm said, this was a headache and a half to get together, pulling together the history of Royal and Select. And what I'll be doing is talking about the history period. Basically, give a synopsis of how Roll and Select started to somewhat where we are now. Once again, this is very, very brief. It is very, very extensive. So I wanted to give you a brief understanding of Roll and Select and where we are now. So in looking up the history of Roll and Select, we will find in the research that Royal and Select, as far as coming together, were based on three theories, as most historians have put out there, based on the Stewart theory, the Baltimore theory, and the Scottish Rite theory. Basically, I will give you tidbits of all three. I mainly will touch on these Scottish Rite theory. There's a lot that goes into it, but I'll touch on a little bit of the Stewart theory and a tad bit of the Baltimore theory. So the first thing that we need to understand is that the Royal and Select Master's degrees were not originally combined. When they came to the United States, to put it in layman's terms, they were all over the place. You have some historians who refer to receiving these degrees as degree peddling. If you had the money to get it, or if you were in the right situation, you can receive one of these two degrees, and you will have plenty of brothers who receive these degrees at various different times. And so when you looked at the the two degrees, there were times where you had Grand Council of Select Master degrees, and you had the Grand Council of Royal Master degrees. Now, there are claims that the Select Master degree is the oldest degree. That comes from being in the 1740s when the Scots degrees were springing up all over France. Now, the Scots degrees started with 7, expanded to 25, and then by 1801 it expanded to the 33 degrees of the Scottish Rite that we know today. During that expansion, the Select Master degree went from being dropped to being reclaimed as a detached degree, and was also known as the Select Masons of 27. And when we go into talking about the Stewart theory, the Stewart theory is talks about how both of these degrees were used as it is thought that both of these degrees had Charles Stewart and Louis XVI representing kings of the Royal Master degree, and Earl of Moss and Nithsdale, and to where you have the now the
Brother Jack, brother Jack.
Yeah.
Brother Jack, I think your audio is coming in a little staticky.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Okay. The select, the word select I have in quotations because select was supposed to actually represent the individual Mason and actually not the entire degree. And so basically, what it was supposed to do was like 27 there were 27 selected companions of Charles Edward Stewart. So that is where the word select came in originally, to represent the individual and not the entire degree. and the Royal Master degree was supposed to represent the claiming of the throne. So in the Royal Master degree, you had the lost word, which was supposed to represent the cause of claiming the throne, and the secret vault, where the work was done and remained until the time was right to go and reclaim the throne. So overall, that is where the steward theory comes in with the development of the Royal and Select Master degrees. Now, talking about Royal and Select Master coming into the United States, and this is where we get into the Scottish Rite, theory, and some of the Baltimore theory. What you see here is a chart, and originally it is stated that the one of the first people to have the degrees was Stephen Moran. Now, Stephen Moran was named the Inspector General for the Rite of the New World in 1761, and he arrived in the West Indies in 1762. It is said that he communicated these degrees to Henry Andrew Franklin in Kingston, Jamaica, around the same time. So illustrious Franklin went to pass these degrees on to Samuel Stringer, Moses M. Hayes, who ended up being the Grand Master of Massachusetts in 1792, and then him passing the degrees on to Joseph N. Myers. Now, these men alone were responsible for conferring the cryptic degrees through Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, Maryland, and Virginia. There were different times where they received the different degrees, and sometimes they received both at the same time. But it is stated that these men right here had both degrees and were conferring them within the Scottish Rite to various illustrious sirs. Who we have here is Jeremy Land Cross, who is considered to be the father of cryptic masonry. The reason why he is considered to be the father of the cryptic masonry because he is the one who is credited for combining the Royal Master and the Select Master degrees together. Jeremy Cross was the Grand Lecturer for the Grand Chapter, Holy Royal Arch of Connecticut, as well as the Grand Lodge of Connecticut. He studied under Thomas Smith Webb, who was real big in the Holy Royal Arch. As a matter of fact, he is the one who was credited for the formation of the Most Excellent Master degree. It is said that Cross possibly received the Royal Master degree in 1815 under the at Tyrrhenian Council of Royal Masters in New Hampshire. This is where the Baltimore theory comes in, because Cross received the Select Master degree from Philip Eckel in Baltimore in 1816. And in 1817, he was given permission to confer and charter councils of Select Masters. Him being responsible for the Royal and Select Master degrees, bringing them together under one system. This started in Connecticut in 1818 of March, according to his diary. And in May 18 of 1819, the Grand Council of Royal and Select Masters was organized, and this is the first and oldest Grand Council in the world in Connecticut. Now, talking about the Super Excellent Master, what we have to know about the Super Excellent Master is the Super Excellent Master is not really aligned or allied with both the Royal and Select Masters. The Super Excellent Master actually came later on, and one of the people who was credited for it is this man right here by the name of Joseph Cerno. And this is the reason why I bring the Scottish Rite theory more than the other two theories. Joseph Cerno was appointed the inspector of the Order of Royal Secret, which is the Rite of Perfection in Cuba. In 1807, he moved to New York, and he formed the Sovereign Grand Consistory of the 25th degree. Now, in 1813, he created his own Supreme Council, the Supreme Council of 33 degrees, and he claimed territory over the United States of America, its territories and dependencies, which the United Supreme Council, northernmost jurisdiction, considers to be Cernoism. Now, this Supreme Council rivaled with the northernmost jurisdiction until 1867, when they merged together with the northernmost jurisdiction. Now, it's key to know that there was a time even after the merge that there were those who belonged to Cerno's Supreme Council who became disgruntled and tried to start it all over again. And there was a point where there was still a tussle and a rival between that Supreme Council and the northernmost jurisdiction to the point where it actually blended in with the Grand Lodge, where this Supreme Council actually tried to start lodges in New York. And that's where the Grand Lodges had to step in and consider that Supreme Council clandestine. The reason why I bring up Joseph Cerno and what is called Cernoism is because of this man right here, Thomas Lowndes. Now, Thomas Lowndes, he sided with Joseph Cerno during the controversy. And in 1810 in New York, he organized the Columbian Grand Council #1 in New York, where he gave himself the title of thrice illustrious Grand Master, and he operated only under the Royal Master. Now, it is first recorded that in December 22nd, 1817, that the first recorded conferral of the Super Excellent Master degree was given. And at the time, the order of the degrees became the Royal Master, Super Excellent Master, and then the Select Master. Who you have right here is John James Joseph Gorgas. He's the third most precise Sovereign Grand Commander of the Supreme Council Northern Jurisdiction. I bring him up because he is the one who rivaled with Joseph Cerno. Matter of fact, him and Cerno actually were rivals even before illustrious Gorgas became the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Northern Jurisdiction. And so this rivalry went on for a number of decades. As you see here, this is two different letters, and I want to actually thank illustrious Ken Collins because he actually gave me a copy of these letters years ago. And when Sovereign Grand Commander Gorgas was in the chair, he gave two letters. The first letter that you see on the left is discussing the fact that the two degrees, the Royal Master and the Select Master, were being given by bodies other than the United Supreme Council, also being given by the Royal Arch. What some don't know is that during this time, before a Grand Council or a General Grand Conference was actually made, there was a fight between who actually had supreme authority over these degrees. And you had people like Jeremy Cross and others who were given the Royal and Select Master's degrees to the companions of the Royal Arch. Their basically requirement was that you had to be in the Royal Arch in order for you to receive the degree. So there was a fight that the Royal Arch actually had claim over these degrees. But in this letter to the left, it was explaining the situation that was going on between these two degrees, and that they would confer, they would discuss and get ideas and wise counsel from the southern jurisdiction to know how to move forward. The letter on the right basically states that it will be resolved that anyone who had a charter of the Lodge of Perfection would receive a charter to be able to confer the Select Master 27, the Royal Master, and Super Excellent Master degrees. And this order was given by Sovereign Grand Commander Gorgas. And these two letters actually took place in 1850. Some things to know and to research. 1829 is when you had the formation of the General Grand Conference of Royal and Select Masters. It wasn't until 1872 that supreme authority of the cryptic degrees was awarded to the General Grand Conference. And by that time, the order of the degrees were Royal Master, Select Master, and the Super Excellent Master was actually optional, because at that time it was not considered a degree, but more of a ceremony. The originator of the term cryptic degrees is given to illustrious companion Robert Morris. Also in 1958, the Grand Encampment of Knights Templar of the United States gave the state Grand Commanderies the option to make the Royal and Select a prerequisite to join the commanderies. By doing that, it made the York Rite a united front and actually would help the Royal and Select grow their numbers. Brothers, I would definitely tell you once again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of people and things that I did leave out for sake of time, but I would encourage you to research brothers such as Abram Jacobs, Hezekiah Niles, Philip Eckel, and Henry Wilmans. Also look into the dispute between the Holy Royal Arch and the cryptic degrees as far as who had supreme authority to confer these degrees, because the dispute was not just between the General Conference and the Scottish Rite, it was also between the Holy Royal Arch, and there was actually a three-way rivalry of who actually had the authority to confer these degrees and bring these degrees together. So to the illustrious companions, to the brothers who are looking at joining Royal and Select, and also I do have some references cited, but I do hope that this presentation gives you a brief history of where Royal and Select came from. I will tell all of you that after getting this done, I have a complete headache, and I do have Excedrin in the car. But it was definitely good to know how these degrees not only came into existence, but how they were able to combine to where they are today. So I pray that you enjoy this presentation this evening.
Brother Jack, thank you. Thank you for the excellent presentation. You know, as anything, you know, with the history of not only our Grand Lodges, but all of our houses, you know, in America, there's always something, you know, it's something different or it's just very interesting. Now, what makes it more interesting, though, when you talk about Prince Hall is, you know, it's not just about how the degrees came to America. Then it's basically, okay, how did all these black men get these degrees? So to go into details about that, Brother Gillarm.
All right. I guess it's showtime. And as Brother Jack stated that, yeah, this was not easy putting this together. Hopefully at the conclusion of this, everybody will have been able to get something from it. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I take it everybody can see my presentation, okay?
Yep, you're good.
All right. Before I get into this, there's a couple of brothers that I'll definitely appreciate their help in compiling this information over the years. Brother Ken Collins' leadership, guidance, and everything has been indispensable. Brother Reginald Stewart, Brother hopefully I pronounced his name right, Jabron Johnson, and good friend and brother, past master Curtis Black, out of the great country of Texas. He's in the last couple of days, he's helped me out tremendously in us putting our brains together and compiling this information. So tonight I'm be covering the introduction of cryptic masonry amongst what we now call Prince Hall Masons. All right, and doing my research on this, I found that there was essentially two eras that these degrees were introduced to Prince Hall Masons. And also doing this, I cannot find a link between the two eras. So it's of my opinion right now that the two eras essentially have nothing to do with each other. But they were introduced to Prince Hall Masons at two different points in history. So, and I promised the good brother that within the first couple of minutes, Miles would drop, and hopefully I will live up to that promise. So to get started, in 1885, William H. Greene, who was a member and an eminent commander of Constantine Commandery in Vicksburg, goes to Galveston, Texas, to install the officers of Zerubbabel Commandery number 10. He also established a council of royal and select masters. All right, this is the first time that I've been able to find the establishment of a royal and select council in print, and this was in 1885. So a couple things to take away from this this slide here is the name of the eminent commander was a man named Early Lawrence. Not only was it appears that he was the first eminent commander in the state of Texas, he also served as the first grand eminent commander, if I'm not mistaken. Also, the fact that William H. Greene, who was District Deputy Grand Eminent Commander, was able to establish a council in Texas, that means that he already possessed the degrees. So as I started thinking back, like how would William H. Greene be able to establish a council? That means that not only would he have already had to possess the degrees, somebody would have had to give him the authority to do so. And there was only one man that I could think of that was in a position to do that. That man is of great importance to Prince Hall Masonry, and it's the one and only Thomas Stringer. Not only was he the first Grand Master in Mississippi, he was also the Right Eminent Grand Commandery of St. John's Grand Commandery. This commandery is now known as T.C. Almore Grand Commandery. He is possibly the originator of the cryptic degrees amongst men of color. This theory comes from not only was Stringer very influential in Masonry, in 1880, which is about 5 years prior, he established basically a Supreme Grand Lodge of Knights of Pythias. The Knights of Pythias was another fraternal order. I believe the story goes that while he was in Canada, that he received those degrees of Knights of Pythias. So it's quite possible that he received the council degrees as well. And he was able to not only have them, but be able to confer them on other men. And they went out and started to establish councils in other states. So this is where it starts really getting good. And I know for our viewers, you probably looked at, oh man, this John G. Jones. What does he have to do with this story? So, in 1901, in the Imperial Grand Council proceedings, for which John G. Jones was Imperial Potentate, they give an account of the origin of cryptic masonry amongst men of color. And this can be found on pages 42 and 43. And he states that a General Grand Council of Royal and Select Masters of the Cryptic Rite of Freemasonry for the United States of America and Canada was lawfully and constitutionally established at Kansas City, Missouri. He starts naming some of the companions that were involved: Wiley Kimbrough, of course, himself, John G. Jones, and Thomas W. Logan. And he also mentions Early Lawrence, who was the first eminent commander and Grand Eminent Commander in Texas. It states that the authority for this Grand Council came from the Grand Council of Scotland. I have since reached out to the Grand Council of Scotland to verify this. As of today, I have not received a response. I'm pretty sure with all the COVID-19 stuff going on, I probably will get a response after this is over. But this gives this account tells about the General Grand Council that was formed. In today's time, we have state Grand Councils. At this point, there was basically a national body, and there were no state Grand Councils. So we have the General Grand Council of Cryptic Rite of Royal and Select Masters for the United States and Dominion of Canada, formed in August 1894. John G. Jones was elected as the most illustrious Grand Master for a period of 3 years. Now, it's important to know that this period in history, John G. Jones was a member of John Jones Lodge number 7 under what is now called the Prince Hall Grand Lodge, Illinois. And there were other, what we would now call Prince Hall Masons involved in this formation as well, such as Major Thomas Logan. He was a member of Roan Lodge number 23 in Kansas City. R.W. Freeman was a member of Excelsior Lodge number 25 in Omaha, and at this time, this lodge was still operating in Missouri. Then Elsie Pence, who was a member of Pritchard Lodge number 42 in Kansas City. Other men that was involved: Peter Harris. Peter Harris served as Deputy Grand Emney Commander in Missouri. So at this point, it's important to take away that all these men involved were what we would now consider Prince Hall Masons. So the man that installed the officers was past Grand Master Wally Lawrence Kimbrough, who was a member of Paul Drayton Lodge number 9. He has something in common with Brother Damien Jack. And he was the one that obviously installed the officers of the General Grand Council. This Grand Council was formed during the Imperial Session in Kansas City. At that session, he also received a 33rd degree. So as you start to see that not only were these Prince Hall Masons, these were men of quote unquote prominence in Prince Hall Masonry, such as past Grand Master Kimbrough, Early Lawrence, Major Thomas Logan, who also served as, I think, Grand High Priest in Missouri. These were all men, they all held high, quote unquote, ranking positions in their respective jurisdictions. So with the establishment of with everybody, you have to establish bylaws. And the bylaws of the General Grand Council, once like Master, stated that no Master Mason could receive the degrees unless he had already received the degrees of Royal Ark. That's kind of how it is now. That's because we kind of expect that. But they added in addition, they said, or he could have received a 14th degree, which is the Lodge of Perfection in the Scottish Rite. So this becomes key in later on in the presentation. So that's vastly different from what we are seeing now. Each Grand Officer possessed the power to establish councils. This was also key in the spread of Cryptic Rite amongst Prince Hall Masons. Previously, the head authority figure in this point would have been John G. Jones, would authorize it, but the bylaws allow each Grand Officer, so all his deputies, any other person could establish councils as well. And the dress for companions was vastly different than what it is now. Then companions wore dark clothes, red apron, and white gloves. So as you see now, that this body looked completely different than what we see now. So John G. Jones is pretty much known for, more well known for his Scottish Rite involvement and his shrine involvement, but he was heavily involved in York Rite as well. So in addition to being a member of John Jones Lodge number 7, he was a charter member of Eureka Chapter number 3 in Chicago as well. And so what you're looking at on the left is obviously a picture of him as the Imperial Grand Potentate of the Ancient Arabic Order Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. And on the right side, you see the original charter from 1880 for Eureka Chapter number 3, and it states John G. Jones was a charter member of this chapter. Also, so you got to keep in mind, with the General Grand Council being formed in 1894, Jones was serving as the Lieutenant Grand Commander of what is now known as the United Supreme Council of Southern Jurisdiction Prince Hall Affiliation. And he was also serving as the Imperial Grand Potentate of the Ancient Arabic Order Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. So this wasn't just an average member per se. This was a man who had held high positions in these bodies at the time that the General Grand Council of the Cryptic Rite was established, and then he was elected to serve in his highest position as the most illustrious Grand Master. So now we go into the next year, 1895. And through my research, I saw that it seemed like this point was very key in the spread or the growth in the Cryptic Rite. So on the left, you're looking at the account at the account from Thornton Jackson Supreme Council. That's how I'm going to call for this presentation. And then on the right, you have the account from John G. Jones Supreme Council. So on the left, the account states that Thornton Jackson was elected to the office of Sovereign Grand Commander. And John G. Jones, who was previously Lieutenant Grand Commander, was subsequently elected as Grand Chancellor. But according to Jones, and his Supreme Council, he was elected to the office of Sovereign Grand Commander. This caused a big shift in what we would now call Prince Hall Masonry, because you had some people that would go with Thornton Jackson, and you had some that went with John G. Jones. So this caused, in my opinion, this action created a burst in the expansion of Cryptic Masonry. So the next year, John Doyster, who was the Grand High Priest of the the Grand Chapter in D.C., basically put his foot down, and he issued an edict, which I will read in part. It says, any Royal Arch Mason of this jurisdiction who violates or disobeys any of the provisions of the foregoing resolutions or of this edict shall be held to have been guilty of unmasonic conduct as a Royal Arch Mason, and shall, on any conviction thereof, be punished by expulsion from Royal Arch Mason. What he is talking about was, he said that if anybody became a member of the Jones Seville faction of the Supreme Council, or assisted in conferring of degrees for that Supreme Council, you will be expelled from Royal Arch Masonry. This is key because there were members of the General Grand Council located that were very prominent, such as Dorsey Seville, that were Royal Arch Masons in DC. So by doing this, he attempted to not only in their Royal Arch career, but he was essentially in their Cryptic Masonry career as well. But it didn't really it didn't go that way. Since Jones was saying that he was Sovereign Grand Commander and he had a Supreme Council, members were still able to join because he was Sovereign Grand Commander and he could establish consistories. And that's exactly what he did. So after 1896, you saw a complete burst in the expansion of these degrees. They went from just having a couple to, at this point, having 22 councils. I believe the number got to about 50 or 60 councils. And he credited some certain companions. Robert Fletcher of California, Edward Baker and Thomas Logan of Kansas City, and Dorsey Seville of DC. And what made this expansion, in my opinion, so rapid was John G. Jones' circle he had all the prominent members of the African American Society, such as James Hill. If you're from Mississippi, especially at Jackson area, you're probably familiar with who James Hill is. He was a very prominent Republican during this time. He was a leader in the African American community, and there's a statue of him in Jackson, Mississippi. So what they would do when they would go into a city, they would establish 3 bodies in one day. First would be the consistory. That way the candidates would have the 14th degree already. Next, he would establish the council and a shrine temple. And he did this everywhere. The third column that you see, 1897, John G. Jones travels to Asheville, North Carolina, and they established Richard T. Greener Consistory. If you don't know who Richard T. Greener was, he is the first African American to graduate from Harvard. So he had very prominent African Americans. And if we lived in this time, I don't know about you all, but I probably wouldn't be in his circle. I'm not a prominent enough guy to have been around who John G. Jones was traveling with. So after he established the consistory, they established the council and they established a shrine temple. And then this is for the Grand Thrice. 1898, Isaac Brown, who was deputy for Iowa under the Supreme Council, the Shrine, and the Cryptic Rite, travels to Staunton, Virginia, and establishes Alpha Consistory, Valley Star Temple, and Staunton Council Royal and Select Masters. This is 1898. Also, Isaac Brown was serving as the Grand Master of what we would now call the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Iowa. So these were very prominent men that were traveling and establishing these councils all over the United States. And this is a key thing. In 1898, this body did something very progressive. This is something that's not even happening today. On March 4th, 1898, the General Grand Council unanimously adopted a resolution that would have established a central database for all Masonic bodies among men of color. What this council realized is that you had certain grand lodges or in other grand bodies that weren't printing their proceedings. So it said the membership wouldn't know anything about what that grand body was doing, nor would they know really the history of it. So this resolution called for a person to be placed in every single jurisdiction for every single grand body. So you would have had one person for the Grand Lodge. You would have had one person for the Grand Chapter. You would have had one person for the Grand Commandery. You would have one person Scottish Rite, one person for Shrine. And their responsibility was to gather up those proceedings, compile the history, and get all the statistical numbers for the membership in that jurisdiction. So, and they would all send that back to the central database for housing. So let's say you were, as a member, that you want to know what the membership looked like in Illinois or get certain proceedings, you'll be able to contact them. Not only would you be able to get the proceedings from the Grand Lodge, you'll be able to not only get that history, but you would know their growth from the Grand Lodge's inception. So this was a very progressive body that Jones was the head of. Now I think we have a tendency to think as, with the Cryptic Rite as kind of like something that you had to take to get the Knight Templar. I don't think that they look at it this way. They look to make this a force. They want to make this body very prominent as something that people would aspire to join to because they were doing amazing things at the time. They were establishing councils in Montana. They had councils in California, and they even traveled to Iberia and was establishing councils there. So this Cryptic Rite was spread all over from men of color. So according to John G. Jones in 1901, this body elected a new most illustrious Grand Master. His name was Reverend Joshua A. Brockett, and he was from Atlanta. Reverend Brockett was a member of what's now known as W.C. Thomas Lodge number 12, which operates under the Most Royal Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Georgia. But it seems like the activity of this Grand Council seemed to decline around this time. And over the next 9 to 10 years, you can find very little activity from the General Grand Council or its subordinate council. In my opinion, the decrease in activity could have been due to several factors. One was the establishment of the ancient Arabic order nobles of the Mystic Shrine. Once that body was established and people started to join it, that means that you had to disassociate yourself with John G. Jones. That means that you were not going to be members of his of the General Grand Council. Now I'm starting to think of it that since the body was started in 1900, he probably had another person elected so that he would not be, so that nobody would point the finger at him and say, you don't need to be a part of this body because of Jones. He probably stepped out the way just for that. But it really didn't work. The body started to go down anyway. And then when he was expelled from Masonry, that seemed to be the nail in the coffin. Everybody seemed to lead, not only lead the General Grand Council, they were leaving the shrine that he had started, and they left his Supreme Council as well. So this body suffered because of it, and everything seemed to die out. So now we get into the second era of the Cryptic Rite again amongst men of color, or Prince Hall Masons. So in 1916, the most excellent Grand High Priest jurisdiction of Ohio, Charles Porter, empowered illustrious companion Charles Gordon to organize and set up councils of Royal Select Masters in the state of Ohio. All right, so if you listen to Brother Jack's presentation, you start to hear about the Royal Ark taking control of the Council Degrees. And I started to see in other jurisdictions, in our counterpart jurisdiction around that time, such as Mississippi, the Grand Council had gave up the right to those degrees to the Grand Chapter. So this is probably where the Grand High Priest got his authority from to do this. So August 13th, 1917, the councils that had been formed previously met in Cincinnati for the purpose of forming a Grand Council of Royal and Select Masters for the state of Ohio and its jurisdiction. Charles Edward Gordon served as the first Grand Thrice Illustrious Master, and he served for 17 years. So if you are watching this and you are a member of a council, Ohio is the current mother for all Prince Hall affiliated Grand Councils. So if you ever wonder where your Grand Council traces lineage to, it's Ohio, and this man served as his first Grand Thrice Illustrious Master.
Hey, Brother Gillarm, I'm sorry, I didn't. You were going out. Can you say that again? I couldn't hear what you said. Let's get to hear
that, man. Nobody would want him to repeat that.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and repeat it then. All right. So the action, this formation of this Grand Council makes Ohio the mother Grand Council for all Prince Hall affiliated Grand Councils.
Thank you, brother.
No problem. Well, as I stated earlier, there is no evidence that I found to support that the first era and the second era are historically connected. That's why I can say with confidence that Ohio is the mother for all Prince Hall affiliated Grand Councils. I have not been able to find where the second era traces his lineage to the first era. So far, they're distinctly different. So when you start, I know all you historians out there, when you start compiling your history, it's all going to lead to Ohio, some way, shape, or form. And now with the second area, it looked vastly different from the first, because now we have state Grand Councils and we have a general conference. So currently, our general conference, Thrice Illustrious Grand Master, is Most Illustrious Companion William A. Cook, KYGCH. He intended to be on tonight as well, but he has some other business to tend to. So we'll probably end up may eventually circle back with him at a different point in time. But this is what I found be the current history regarding Prince Hall affiliated Grand Council. So if you want to know about the introduction about these degrees to Prince Hall Masonry, hopefully this presentation will help you out some. I do feel, as Brother Jack said, it's a lot more research that I can do. And I know we have some great brothers out there that will probably do some research as well. So hopefully that was able to help you out.
Thank you, brother. And I you know what? I'm glad you had your presentation up, and everyone was looking at that and couldn't see us, because when you said that, I had the big Kool-Aid grin on my face, and I probably looked crazy when you gave Ohio its props. So thank you for that. Thank you for that excellent presentation. Looking at some of the comments in the session, both you and Brother Jack's presentation, it really you know, I'm seeing a lot of great reaction for all the research that you all put in there. So I'm grateful to you brothers. And it's interesting because when I know while you were doing all of this, you know, periodically you all would say, you know, hey, we got something coming. We got something coming. You know, so I'm like, yeah, okay. That was excellent, bro. You know, so thank you for putting that together. So and just like anything, and as I said at the beginning, you know, a lot of this is, you know, you always have the information within the house itself that you know, it's great information to have for you to use to better yourself, but the history behind it, you know, and how it came to be is you know, also amazing. So Brother Leggett, so why, you know, given everything that, you know, the historical aspect of it, you know, like I said, is one thing. Why should, you know, in your opinion, someone pursue this house? You know, why should they join?
Well, I'll tell you, just speaking from my perspective, once I became a Mason, Master Mason, it was just, to me, it was just like going to school. It was just a natural progression of, I just needed to connect these things on to what was going on. And that's what made me want to become a Royal Select, Royal Archmason, and so on and so on. But what I would say is, with all of the Masonic things that we go on now, this house here, and it's not just because I'm the Right Grand Thrice Illustrious Master right now. There's a need to come in here and just get part of this puzzle added in. It's a beautiful house, number one. But for a lot of folks that choose to go to Scottish Rite or the York Rite, there's no right or wrong which way to go. It's all on you and what your timeline is. But definitely, this is just one of the more beautiful things to do. It's another venue of getting out there and do what we're supposed to be doing best, and that's being pillars in the community. And I will tell you, I sat back here as though I was a student in grammar school and got educated today. And it was amazing to what those two brothers took the time to put together. And if that wasn't enough to interest you, I don't know what can get you to want to come in and to join this body. Dave, hey man, I owe you cats, man. Cause like I said, I will tell you straight up, this is the best school of light I ever been to. I mean, you guys put it down, and Dame, you know, every chance I get, I talk to you and tell you to do what you do, and don't worry about how it's perceived, because you're doing the right thing. But I will tell you, it's a beautiful thing. It's a, like I said, it's a different venue to go. The Blue House might be a little crowded if that's what you're ascending to, but definitely Royal and Select is another venue that can actually, it can make life easier if you hadn't passed through some of those houses and you happen to get involved with the Royal and Select. You'll really start understanding your degrees a lot better as it's being taught to you. But again, that's opinion of me. And currently I'm a little partial to it, but anytime I can get educated and see the vigor that these brothers are putting into it, this is what makes people want to be a Mason. When you can get some joy out of something. And this has been one of the best hours just talking and listening about Masonry that I ever experienced. And again, I know I'm the honoree, but let me tell you, I'm a student right now, and I just appreciate you brothers for the invite.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for those kind words. You know, we try to do our best to just, you know, bring the information. Like I said, these brothers do a lot and put a lot into the research aspect of it. And you know, from day one, our job has always been to just present it to folks, you know, and give them some type of venue. Not only to, you know, I guess the first part of it is to learn a little something or as much as they can here, but then hopefully taking it back to their lodges and their other houses as well, and continuing the conversation there. So appreciate those kind words. Brother Morgan, do we have any questions tonight?
Well, let me just say as well that I think that this has been a great presentation. You know, for me, this is a first, because when we decided to do this show, I knew I really didn't have anything to say or contribute. So I've been just sitting back, learning and listening. And as someone who hasn't taken those degrees, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not very well educated at all on any of the history that you all broke down. I saw some familiar names and faces from other research, but this was definitely enlightening for me. And I plan to, you know, submit this petition to somebody's council here in DC at some point when we're all able to get back to our lives. But thank you so much, because this was definitely very enlightening for me. As far as in the viewer comments, I did see, I'm not sure who it was. And by the way, I want to thank everybody for signing in tonight. We have, last time I checked, we had 175 live viewers. Oh, it's actually gone up to 180 live viewers right now. So we want to thank all of you all for joining in. I did see somebody, I'm not sure who it was, who said that they wanted to know about the Jones councils and if many of them ever healed over. I apologize to whichever viewer submitted that question, but somebody asked that. So can somebody speak to that question? Maybe Brother Gillam, do you want to start off?
Okay, yeah. First, I understand why it's called the Jones Councils, but Jones had nothing to do with the origination of these councils. But I understand what he's saying. So there is no evidence that these councils were ever healed. They appeared to have completely died. We had two councils in Georgia during this period of time. One was in Atlanta, with Joshua Brockett, H.R. Butler, and Alexander Hamilton were members of. And then we had another one the first one in Georgia was in a town called Shepherd, Georgia. The town no longer exists. And that council died. They did not live on, did not get healed. Cryptic Masonry did not exist in Georgia until John Robinson brought it to Georgia from Florida. And this happened in some of every jurisdiction, such as take Texas. They had a council there in 1885, but the current Grand Council has absolutely nothing to do with that council then. They were not healed; they just completely died.
Thank you for that. I saw another question here, and actually I'm going to ask this one as well. For someone who is not a member of the council, what time period do you think that they should wait before seeking membership, and why should we join in the first place? You know, I mean, I got my Blue Lodge experience. I'm already in the Royal Arch. You know, why should I join this Royal Select Masters personally? I mean, all this history is great, but why should I join?
Well, I'll answer that question. As far as the time frame of when you should join, that's an individual answer. You know, your journey is just that, your journey. And you know, when you feel that you are ready, that's when you go ahead and decide to move forward. I don't think anybody should answer that question for you, but you, because it's basically at the end what you want to get out of it. As far as why you should join, the Royal and Select Masters, as we know it now, completes what we call a circle of perfection, and so it completes a lot of the stories that you have been getting ever since you have come into symbolic masonry. And these are the Royal and Select Masters are basically the last degrees that you receive in New York Rite. Now, for anybody who is getting ready to jump up and ask the question, what about Knights Templar? Knights Templar have orders; they don't have degrees. So again, these are the last degrees that you receive in New York Rite. So it basically completes a story. It completes everything that you have been learning, and there's a wealth of information. So for you, Brother Morgan, being a companion of the Royal Arch, I'll just give you a little bit of a hint. Part of what you learn in becoming a companion continues within the Royal and Select Masters, and as we know, even though these degrees are in numerical order, the story is not linear. So you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and basically, you're completing a lot of the puzzle, going from symbolic to capitular to cryptic masonry.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer. We got another question coming in from one of our own Prince Hall Think Tank alumni, Curtis Black out of Texas, who asked a question for you, Brother Jack. He wants to know, what was the reasoning behind the cryptic degrees being conferred by the early ancient accepted Scottish Rite, i.e. the 25 degree system?
To basically answer that question again, they were the select master or the select maces of 27. were originally, as history states, a part of the Scots degrees in the original 7, and as they started to expand from 7 to 25 to 33, this degree once again went from being dropped to be considered a detached degree. For those who know about the Lodge of Perfection, I won't necessarily get into it, but there is some information, especially within the Select Master degree, that ties into the Scottish Rite. As a matter of fact, I think a part of illustrious Charles McClanahan in his ritual, it discussed how those degrees were detached degrees or side degrees, as they called them. So it was basically from my knowledge and from what I gathered, is as you came into the Lodge of Perfection, if you had a wanting or a desire to receive those detached degrees, you were able to do so under the Lodge of Perfection, or the Rite of Perfection, as it was called at that time. I hope that answers your question to a degree. Can't answer it too fully because for me it goes into the ritualistic portion, which of course I won't go into, but hope that answers your question in some form or fashion.
Okay, we've got another one from our good friend Contrivious Jones from down in, I believe, down in your neck of the woods, Dave, down in Georgia, who wants to know if we can speak briefly about the auxiliary loci.
I don't want to answer for the panel, but I'll probably gonna lean to more towards no, only because I know the sisters are trying to get together something similar to this format, and if we start discussing their bodies, what would be the purpose? What are they going to talk about? So I don't believe it's going to happen, but I mean, I don't know if you good brothers want to do it or not.
Excellent answer.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Okay, no problem. Let's see here. Patrick Reiner wants to know, when did the term illustrious get added to the title of companion?
That's a good question.
Well, I can say from our aspect of men of color, it was there from the beginning. With the formation of General Grand Council of the Cryptic Rite in 1894, the title for the head person was the most illustrious Grand Master. So it was there from the beginning for us.
And that's the same for the beginning of Royal and Select period, as I discussed in the history. Thomas Lowndes, when he started the Columbian Grand Council #1 in New York, his title was the Grand Illustrious Master. So I believe that title has been there from the beginning.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Again, brothers, I think you guys did an excellent job. Just as everybody else has been saying, the chat room is flying right now. We've got almost 200 live viewers here right now, and I just want to thank you guys again. One last question came in from Brother Jones as a follow-up. He wants to know, are we pursuing amity with our mainstream counterparts when it comes to Royal and Select Masonry?
We'll let Right Grand Thrice Illustrious Master. What do you think about that, Right Grand Thrice?
I can only speak for Virginia. They still healing.
All right.
I know for North Carolina, we have we signed, I want to say, I think it was 2 years ago, we signed amity with the York Rite, and we have had constant visitation since that time. Like, they've visited our York Rite session, and we visited there. So again, I believe that's going on 2 years now. So So it varies in different jurisdictions. So.
Right on. So I think that's one of those questions again where we would refer you back to your local leadership for an answer that would be applicable to your actual situation. Sounds good. All right, Brother Caffey, I think that's it on the questions for the evening.
All right, thank you, Brother Morgan. And I apologize, brothers. I should have shared this early as well. Like Brother Morgan, I'm also not a member of the Royal Select Masters yet. We had a conversation prior to getting on, and I said that when I came into the lodge, head force started doing a lot of stuff, and I found that I wanted to spend, similar to what some of the brothers said earlier, spending a little more time in some of those other houses and getting my feet wet and getting involved in that. And then I blinked my eyes, and before I know it, I was married, had 2 kids, and I've always been the type of brother that I wanted to be able to devote a lot of time to the houses that I've joined, and I think a few that I think looking back at it, I did join a little fast because I'm not as active in some of those other houses. But hopefully, as the kids are getting older and some of my time, getting freed up, I do look forward to joining this house in particular, just based on some of the great history that was, discussed this evening and some of the words that our special guest also shared with us too. So without further ado, we'll go into our closing thoughts, and we'll start with our special guest, Brother Leggett.
And again, I appreciate the opportunity just to be amongst some good brothers. But I will close with this when the question came up, when is a good time? It's not just time, it's money too. It's another house, it's another dues, and that's something that only that man can answer. How long is it able to? So once you answer that, God willing, Godspeed, you make that decision, and I guarantee you, you'll be pleased with it. But do not short your household behind doing this. When the time is right, do it.
Yep, definitely. Great advice. And not just for this house, but all houses of masonry. Excellent advice. Thank you, Brother Leggett. Brother Morgan, closing words.
Man, I'm over here filling my petition out, man. Leave me alone. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, again, I want to thank everybody for I'm sorry about that, y'all. We got I'm sorry, 1 second. Oh, what in the world that was? I think we got somebody on here trying to act crazy. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, again, brothers, thank you so much for this excellent presentation. I honestly, this has been refreshing for me as somebody to finally be able to sit back and listen to some Masonic education about something that I honestly really didn't know anything about. Thank you to our guest, Brother Leggett. What part of Virginia did you say you were again, sir? Because we're not too far away.
I'm down in Spotsylvania, but I'm always up in North Virginia, and I work in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Oh, you work in Silver Spring? Man, we got to hook up for lunch one day, man, because that's right around the corner from where I live.
I'm at the research center up there, so I'm a little busy, but I always got a good lunch.
Okay, absolutely. We'll hook up. Definitely a pleasure to make your acquaintance, sir. And everybody just stay safe and continue to follow the directions of your local state authorities on this COVID thing. Hopefully, we're all going to get through this together. I want to give a special shout out to my great grandfather, past master. I'm not sure if he's in the Royal Select, but my great grandfather, past Master Wallace L. Smith in Alabama, is turning 101 years old this coming Wednesday. So I want to give him a special shout out. With that being said, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Jack.
As always, it's an honor and pleasure to be on this show. To Right Grand Thrice Illustrious Master Leggett, my main man, thank you for honoring us with your presence this evening. Definitely pray that you and the illustrious companions of Virginia enjoyed the show this evening. Definitely was an honor to have you on. This evening, I would definitely like to dedicate this episode to two pillars who have been called from labor to refreshment in the past couple of days. For the jurisdiction of Oklahoma, illustrious companion Robert Broom, who was an illustrious companion of Sandy Smiley Council number 10 in Oklahoma City, and was also Brother Caffey, a proud member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And in the jurisdiction of North Carolina, we definitely lost a true pillar by the name of Joseph M. Powell, who served as our Rite Grand Thrice Illustrious Master from the years 2015 to 2017, and for many years served as the Imperial Deputy of the Desert of North Carolina. So I want to take time to dedicate the show to those two gentlemen, gone but not forgotten. Thank you for everybody. We pray that you enjoyed the show this evening. Definitely took a lot of work. Once this social distancing is over, me and Dave gonna go out and party after this one. But I also want to give a shout out. Hopefully he's listening. I know he couldn't get on, but to the General Conference Grand Thrice Illustrious Master William A. Cook. I'm a firm believer of giving a person their flowers while they're alive to smell them. Brother Cook is the reason when he served as Most Excellent Grand High Priest, along with another brother, won't say his name, my Grandmaster. But anyway, those two actually gave me my first ever grand position in any body of masonry. I served as the Grand Lecturer for Royal Arch for 2 years, and here I am still doing the things that I do. So I want to thank Brother Cook. I want to thank my Grandmaster for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to serve this great jurisdiction. So once again, thank you for allowing us to educate you, to enlighten you, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank you, Brother Jack. Brother Gillarm.
All right, thank you for that. As always, I gotta say it. It's sad this NBA season had to come to an end because the Knicks was gonna take it. This was our year. We was gonna win the championship.
Why'd you tell?
Who had the best record? I want to know that. Who had the best record?
Bro,
I hope you don't have no Christmas ornaments. I hope you don't have no Christmas ornaments.
I didn't. I had every plan to wear my Patrick Ewing jersey tonight, but I was like, you know what? Since it's the show about Rolling Select, I wear my Rolling Select shirt. Next show, you already know what's gonna happen. But
how about that Chicago Bulls documentary?
Who?
The Chicago Bulls.
What team is that? I've never heard of them.
Oh, I'm sure.
So just want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. It's definitely been a pleasure. As Brother Jack said, we're gonna get together and we got to have a drink or 10 because this has been a lot putting this presentation together. There's a lot of stuff that we still have to find. A lot more research to do. I know we got tons of great brothers out there that's going to be putting in work and helping. And not now maybe you have a spark. Maybe you can go ahead and ignite that fire, and we can bring Royal Select instead of just accepting it as a degree to get to Knight Templar. It actually make this something that you look forward to join to, and you will get something out of, and you will help progress these degrees. To Rite Grand Thrice Illustrious Master Leggett, thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure. We always get other grand officers, but it's a pleasure every time we get one because that shows that you kind of support what we're doing, and that means a lot.
Oh man, the pleasure is mine, man. The pleasure is all mine.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of concludes my comments for tonight. But as always, go Knicks.
Hey, Brother Gillarm, I don't know about all that Go Knicks stuff, but I will say this. I want to let everybody know I received my 150th anniversary commemorative coin from Brother Gillarm for the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Georgia. It's got their seal on the front on one side, and then the other side, they've got their first Grandmaster, James Sims, and the current Grandmaster, Corey Shackelford. Dave told me that it was going to have his picture on it, but thankfully that wasn't the case. But I wanted to encourage everybody out there to please go out and support this effort. I'm not sure if the money's going towards a scholarship or or what have you. But the coin costs $30, and I was very impressed with it. Just don't tell Dave Gillarm that I said that though. And make sure you go support him with this, please.
Oh, God.
All right.
As you can see, I will never be coming back to this house again.
What in the world?
As
That's what I'm talking about right there. That's the real.
I will never.
That's it.
I will never. Matter of fact. Yeah. Let's
How
go
did
ahead and do
Dave-
that. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that right there.
Who did Dave pay to do that? Like, what in the world?
Hey,
Let's go
I
ahead and
thought,
do that right there.
I was starting to get worried at first because I thought we were going to get through a whole show without the Knicks being mentioned, and then lo and behold, an hour and 17 minutes, and I believe 15 seconds in.
Yeah.
Man, we can't take y'all nowhere, man. We was having a good episode. It was educational, no
Right.
silliness.
Yeah.
And y'all,
That's
So,
all right,
nowhere.
though.
You could thank one of my best friends, about to be former best friend, illustrious companion Timothy Paulin of Hiram Biff Council number 3. You know, we both from New York. It's the New York thing, but we'll talk about this after the show.
There it is.
Right.
All right. Thanks, brothers. Thanks again. Thanks to our special guest, Brother Leggett. Again, thank you for the wisdom that you were able to impart to us tonight. While the foundation of Freemasonry rests upon the first 3 degrees of the craft, each house within the system of Freemasonry illustrates not only illustrates lessons, but it also can benefit one's life, and it also has a wonderful history as well. So we hope to continue to bring you these important history lessons, these important life lessons, and as we said today, take stock of where you're at right now within the craft, and we urge you to pursue this house of Freemasonry when you're able to do so. Thanks again for joining us tonight. We hope you've gained a little insight into Freemasonry. We hope you join us for future broadcasts of the Prince Hall Think Tank. Please stay safe out there. Please follow the guidelines of the CDC and your local health department. Have a good evening, and remember, let's teach Masonry in our lodges. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.